So in last class we have started with OOPS concept and we have seen what is class and what is object. So class is basically blueprint and object is actual implementation of that blueprint. Okay. Then we have seen constructor. So constructor are special method to initialize variables. Okay. Also we have seen class variable and instance variable. Then we have seen methods. Method means method are like function in method are similar to functions. Okay. So we will continue with that class thing. And today we will see first method. Okay. So function inside a class, we call it as a method. So there are mainly three types of methods. One is instance method. Then there is a class method. And then there is a static method. Okay. Uh, so in instance method, the first argument or first input should always be self. Okay. In instance method, the first argument will always be self. In class method, the first argument will be CLS. Okay. So here the first argument will always be in class method, the first argument will always be CLS. In static method, no argument means no such keyword is required like self or CLS. Both things are not required. So this basically static method is just like a normal functions. Okay. So let's go to the code. Let's take this example. Okay. So if we see this example, so let's first name it. So this school is basically a class variable. Okay. And these are called instance variable, means this self dot name, age, grade, subject, and this function dev underscore underscore init underscore underscore. So this is a special method and this is called constructor. Okay. So when we create an object, so first thing it will call this constructor. So this will basically save the value, means like we have seen there will be a form, empty form, and when we call this uh, when we create an object, then this name, age, grade that we pass, it will directly fill it to that variable. Okay. Now So these are called means if you see there are three methods means apart from init. So init is a special method or we call it as a constructor. So there are three other method here or three function we can say. So the first is a introduce, second is a add subject, third is a get info. Okay. So in all three, the first argument. So let's, for example, if we see the introduce function, so the first argument or first input is a self. Okay. Here also the first input is self, and here also get info, the first input is self. Okay. So always remember, for instance, so there are three types of methods. So first is a instance method. So in instance method, the first keyword is always be self. Again, if we see this in instance method, so the first argument will always be self. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So this is basically the instance method. And if you see here also, in instance method, take self as the first parameter, can access and modify instance attribute, can access class attributes. Okay, so these are the three main properties of this instance method. So first rule is that its first keyword should always be self, or first argument should always be self. Second, it can access and modify instance attributes. Instance attributes means this name, age, grade, subject. So if we call this self, then we can access this instance attributes. Okay, name, age, grade, subject. If we do not use self here, then we cannot access this instance attributes. Okay, inside this functions. Yeah, so that is the second property. And then can access class attributes. So class attributes is this one, that is school. Okay, so we can access the class attribute as well using this instance method. Okay, so let's again first let's run this. Okay, now if I have to create object. Okay, so this is my class student. Okay, and let's say if I create a1 equal to student. Okay, and let's say name I write uh, Sravanti, and then let's say 24, uh, grade 24, then grade let's say A plus. Okay, and if I create this. Okay, now this will be a1 dot name if right if I want to access this attributes. Or so let's again see the execution means what is the flow. So when you create an object student Sravanti 24 A plus, so here if you see means self is a reserved keyword, then here name age grade. Okay, not a reserved keyword because reserved keyword uh, it has some special meaning, but generally the thumb rule is that first argument should be self. Okay, yeah. So reserved keyword will be like for, while. So these are reserved keyword. Okay, yeah. So self is a first argument. It is, and then name is grade. Okay, so name is grade. When you enter name is then grade. So and when you create an object a1 equal to student and pass this value, so once you run this, then it will automatically uh, fill name with Sravanti, age with this, and grade with this value. Okay, yeah. So only these three argument is required. So we have passed this, and then that object will get created. Okay. Now to access the value, let's say if I have to see name, so I can see a1 dot name, similarly a1 dot age, and a1 dot grade. We can see all these values. Okay. Now to call the function or method, so what we can do, introduce. Here the method name is introduce, and what argument we are passing here apart from self? Nothing. Okay, so we can simply put empty bracket, then here see, so it will return this thing. Okay, yeah. Now let's say if I have to use the second function, a1 dot add underscore subject. Okay, so first argument is self, so we don't have to input anything. The second argument is subject, so let's write some subject name, math. Okay, see, so here what it written, added maths to Shravanti subject. Okay, so maybe we can see a1 dot subject. Let's see what happened. Subjects. See, in a1 dot subject it store maths. Okay, yeah. So similarly you can call this method as well, get info. So to get info, what we can write, a1 dot get info, and again here we see self is uh, so apart from self there is no argument, so we can simply write get info. Okay, so this is how we can call the instance method after creating object. Okay, so this is about instance method. Okay, now the next is class method. Class method. So in class method, if you see the reserve means the first argument will be CLS. First argument will be CLS. In instance method, the first argument is self. In class method, the first argument will be CLS. Okay. Okay. So let's go with this. Hmm. So here class method, uh, this I will tell, this at the rate class method, but start from second point. So it takes CLS as the first parameter. Okay, CLS as the first parameter and can access modify class attributes. Can access and modify class attribute. Cannot access instant attribute directly and can be called on both the class and instance. Okay, and often used as a alternative constructors. Okay, so it can access and modify class attributes, cannot access instance attribute directly. Okay, so this is mainly for accessing and modifying the class attribute. Okay, so let's see with some example, then it will be more clear. Let's go. Yeah. Yeah. So let's say if we have create a class called employee, okay, and these are called class attribute or class variable also we can say, and after def init, so this is a constructor and these are called instance attributes. Okay, so class attribute is this one and instance attribute is this one. Okay, when we called init, so inside init when we define self dot first, so these are called instance attribute, and the above the init, so these are called class attributes. Okay, so to access or modifying the class attribute, we will use class method. Okay, means uh, inside a class method we can modify this thing. Okay, yeah. So if you see the first two functions like full name and apply raise, so these are called instance method because here the first argument or first variable is or first input is self. Okay, so these are instance method. Okay, so using self, if you see here we can access these class attributes, oh sorry, instance attribute like self dot first, self dot last, so it can access this first and last variable input. Similarly, if we see the apply raise, we can see the self dot salary and self dot raise amount, we can access these values. Okay, and the class value as well using self method. Okay, now if we have to access or modifying the class attribute is, then you can use this class method. So this is just a means when you create any functions, okay, and you want to inside a class, when you create a function and you want to make it as a class method, so simply you have to use decorator. So this is just a means above the function you have to write at the rate class method. So this basically label this function to class method, or means then the object will know, okay, this is the class method, okay, not the instance method. Yeah, so at the rate class method, so this is the first thing when you have to create a class method. The second thing is you have to start with CLS. So CLS means class, it mainly belonging to class variable, means class method. Okay, and it connect this class attribute with this function. Okay, yeah, yeah, if you see the second one, that set raise amount, so this is a function name and we started with CLS, then amount. Okay, then CLS dot raise amount. If you see, this is the class attribute and we want to modify it. So what we can do, CLS dot then class variable name, CLS dot raise amount equal to amount. Okay, so it will change the value. So here we able to access the class variable and we can change it to means some new value. Okay, similarly there is other get employee count. So the first keyword we have used CLS and we are just printing the employee count here. Okay, and if you see the first example, those that first method from string, so this is an alternative constructor. uh, so the constructor role is to basically initialize the variable when you create an object. Okay, so if you use a class method, okay, and here we have seen written CLS then employee underscore string as a one input. Okay, so this basically employee underscore string dot split, when you, let's say if you input this thing first last and salary, so it will divide this into three part, first last and salary. Okay, and then it will store it into first, last, and salary. Now, again, if you observe carefully, so the first thing here, first, last, and salary is already defined inside a init. Okay. So it is modifying these values. Okay. So because of that only we called it as a alternative constructor. Okay. So if we use a return CLS, so it will fill these argument value with this first, last, and salary. Okay. Now let's run this. So this get run. Uh, Now let's create two objects. So employee one, employee two. Okay. Now if you see, there are three arguments that is required for this function: first, last, salary. Okay. So here, let's say if I write Adit, then let's say Anil and Adit. mm, Chirag. Now if I see emp1 dot first. Okay. So these are the argument we can edit. Okay, and let's say if I see emp1 dot email. Okay, so it basically, with the help of first class salary, it created this email ID. Okay, now let's say if I have to access this thing, class method. Okay, instance method, how we can access? Let's say if I have to access instance method, emp1 dot let's say the apply raise apply underscore raise, and there is a no input is required. So simply, so what it print? It nothing returning actually. If you see here, nothing is returning. So, or maybe let's return. Okay. Let's, if I have to access this class method, okay, so same way we can access set underscore raise, and inside that we have to pass some, means after CLS there is a amount, so we have to pass one value. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so here it print raise amount to 40,000. Okay, now let's see from string method. Let's employ to from string. In that we have to use employee underscore. In this format we need to pass the value. So let's, if I change it to Yogesh, then okay, and if I, yeah, now let's or maybe first let's run this. Okay, and emp dot first. So it is Anil. Okay, and emp2 dot last. This is Raghavan. Then emp2 dot salary. Yeah. So this is when we create emp2 object. So it is start with this one. Okay, and uh, let's print me email ID as well. emp2 dot email. Yeah. So when we create an object, so it first initialize with these values because we have passed these three values. Okay. Now let's again rerun this emp2 from string, and again let's say if I have to see the first. Okay, something. Okay. Name. Okay. Yeah. So if we have to call means if we call this functions, okay, this class method, so uh, we can use employee, then the class name, then the class method. Okay, so the class method is from a string, and this is basically the class. Okay, so here if you see the variable changes. Okay, the first, last, and name. Even emp3 dot email. Yeah, so email also get created. p3 dot salary. Yeah. So this is so because of that they only called it as a alternative constructor. So this change the value, okay, of the first, last, and salary. These are instance attribute. It able to change the value. Okay, so we can use it as an alternative constructor. Uh, so if you see it, so if you have to use a instance method, so let's say you create an object employee and employee one, then if you have to create the instance object, what we can do, simply the object name emp1 dot, for example, full name, and we are not giving any input here. So this is how you can create. Okay, and uh, let's say if I try to access emp1 uh, dot get employee count, let's see what. Yeah. So this is how you can access this one also. Yeah, and similarly you can use this as well. Okay, yeah. So this is how you can access the instance method and class method, and this class method mainly used for means accessing this class attributes. Okay, so this class attribute you can uh, means we can basically access this value inside a uh, instance method as well, but it is a good practice to create a separate method for accessing, or means if you have to uh, use this class variable, then you can create a separate method. Okay, this is just for means so that means this is a standard practice uh, to access the class variable, create a separate method, and for instance method there will be a separate method, means separate functions. Okay, uh, just to have there should be some clarity. Okay, these functions use the class attribute, means instance attributes, and these are the function which using basically the class attributes. Okay, yeah. So this is mainly for class method. uh, Next is a static method. uh, yeah. So in static method, we do not use a CLS or self keyword. Okay, we directly, if you see here, we do not use a static or CLS. So this is like a normal function inside a class. Just to behave it as a normal function, or in the class would know, okay, this is a normal function. So it's it is called as a static method. So if you see inside a static method, we are not changing any value, okay, of the class or instance attributes. Okay, so because of that also its name is a static, because no value like self.name or pi, this value we are not changing. Okay, so simply if you have to use a static method, so what we can do, let's say if we have to add two number, so how we create a def add x comma y, return x plus y. Okay, and we are not using either self or CLS. We simply, then we can use simply static method. Okay, at the rate static method, so the function should know, okay, these are a static method, or this class should know this are static method. Okay, so they behave like a normal function. Okay, so 5. Yeah. So here, if you see, there are a this is a means constructor, this is a class variable, this is an instance method, and these are static method. Okay, like add, multiply, each prime, and to make it as a static method, we need to write above the function at the rate static method. Okay. So inside this, there is an argument called name. Okay. So let's scientific calculator, we name it as a scientific calculator. So the class name is math utils. Okay. And the argument it is taking name. So name we have, but now to call these functions, the static method functions, what we can do, let's say calc dot, if you want to add, so it taking two argument x and y, so simply I can write 4 comma 6, let's say. So it basically returning means it adding this 6 and 4. Okay, similarly you can use other functionality as well, like calc dot multiply 10 comma 8, let's say. So it able to multiply it. Okay, so these are normal function inside a class. So just so the normal function, when we are not providing any input like CLS or self, so they are called it as a static method. Okay, they are called it as a static method, and we denote it by at the rate static method. Okay, so again, if we see the property, use the static method decorator, don't take self or CLS as a parameter, cannot access instance or class attributes directly, behave like a regular function but belong to class namespace, can be called on both class and instance. Okay, yeah. So these are the property of this. So these are three different types of methods in uh, class. Okay, any doubt, anyone? Okay.
Sir,
Mhm,
in the starting example, when you were explaining the instance method,
mhm.
in the constructor part, after writing self and all the variables, there was one variable which was not written inside the constructor, but it was written in the list of the instance attributes.
Are you
That
able to
subject,
see my screen? Okay, yeah. Huh.
that subject. So before the subject, we have used bracket. So what is that for?
So this square bracket what represent? Can anyone
List,
tell? List.
list.
And the only difference is like we are not putting any value. Okay, so this is empty, right? Empty
So
list,
can we
right?
use it here? Yeah.
You can initialize anything. Even you can put a subject equal to 2. But this means that you have created a means in subject you have initialized with some value like that is a empty. But empty also have some values. Means some values means it represent okay this is created.
So can we create any method using that subject?
Any method means not getting what you are saying.
Like here only this is one method, add subject method,
Hmm.
second one.
Subject is a attribute, right? In add subject, yeah. Tell. So here we are appending, na? Means self dot subject dot append. So since this is a list, we are appending subject.
Okay,
We have
so we
already
can,
seen the
yeah,
example,
yeah,
right?
yes,
Uh-huh.
sir, yes, sir.
Uh-huh. So we can, this is the only thing like name, age, grade. Okay. So these are, we want these three users should input. Okay, let's say in name also, uh, let's say if I remove name, okay, simply if I write cell comma is grade, then here I need to write some name. Uh, for example, your name only. Okay, if I write this, that is also okay. This user only have to input these two, age and grade. Name is by default. He has taken Aditya. Okay. Similarly, in name also there is one more option. You can uh, put empty string. So that is also is valid thing. Okay.
Okay, so basically we can the things we want the user to input, we will write it inside the constructor. Rest of the things we want default, we will write it in the list of the instance attributes.
Huh. Means it is means even in age equal to, let's say if you write 10. Okay. So let's say if user doesn't input age value. Okay. By default it will take 10.
Then
So here also you can make default options, but these are basically a hard coded thing. Means uh, default option when you input something, means when you create a function there, let's say if you write age equal to 10, so if user doesn't input the value of age, it will treat it as a 10. Okay, so let's see it. uh, uh, Maybe name I can write and name comma is comma 10. Okay, and let's simply run this. Just a minute. Hmm. Okay, so the default parameter should be at last. Okay, or name grade, then age equal to 10. If you write, then it will run. Okay, now if you have to create a function, means let's say if I create a one object s1 equal to, let's say, student. Okay, and if I write Aditya and a plus. Okay, and let's say here if I write cell dot subject 2. Okay, again I write, and if I run this commas, so it run. Right now if I write s1 dot age, see here three inputs was required: name, grade and age. Age we haven't mentioned, so by default it will take 10. So if I just want to see s1 dot age, let's say if I have to see subject, s1 dot subject, subjects, yeah, it's 2, right? Let's say if I use this method s1 dot s1 dot add subject, and then if I simply write, for example, uh, science, and again if I see s1 dot subjects, so see earlier it was 2, now science also get appended. Okay, yeah, so this is how you can access the, let's say if you have two default value, let's say grade also if you want to by default, let's say D plus. Okay. So, uh, so here there are two default value. So now if you just, let's say, entering one value. Okay, before that you have to run this. And yeah, now it's run. And if you see the age, that is 10. Grade s1 dot grade. Yeah, by default value it will take. Okay. Yeah, so this is how you can have a means. If it is a default value, then you can access it. Okay, so this is about mainly methods. Uh, any other doubt in this? This class method, static method, you should know it. Means otherwise, only most of the time in let's say if you create a program, most of the time people use a instance method. And again, for class method, it is just means if you have to, if you want, like, you want to have a cleaner code. So in cleaner code means, let's say if you have to use these variables, then you create a separate function for it. Okay, and this separate function can be represented by class method, because if you have to access the class variable, and in instance variable, if you have to access the instance variable related thing, then you created a separate function called instance methods. Okay, so this is just for a user, or when you write a code, so it will be more organized. So for that only we use a class method and this thing, and similarly static method. Okay, so here we are not using this class method or class variables or instance variable. We just ask user to input, and these are basically static. So these values, like, this method doesn't change the value of this class method, class variable or instance variable. So because of that, also we called it as a static. Yeah. Any doubt till this point?
Then out of the three methods, which method is more advanced?
I already said na which one to, when to use which one.
Means
Okay.
yes, means as per the use case.
As per the use case, you have to apply it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So next is inheritance. Yeah. So inheritance. Inheritance. So this is also a very important concept in class. So inheritance is basically inheriting. Means, let's say for example, we inherit some property from our parents, grandparents. Okay, so similar to that, in class also there are parent class and child class. Okay, so parent class and child class. Okay, so child class inherit or take properties from parent class. Okay, so if they take some property from parent class, so that thing we called it as a inheritance. Okay, so these properties can be, let's say, parent class have some variables, and if you want to access those variables inside some other class. Okay, so these means this information transmission. Okay, that we called it as a inheritance. Okay, so there are different types of inheritance. So first is a single inheritance. Single inheritance. So in single inheritance, there will be a parent class and there will be a child class. Okay, so child class will inherit property from parent class. So let's see through some example. Okay, before that, hmm. So single inheritance, one child inherits from one parent. Okay, yeah. So let's say this is a one class I defined. Okay, and you see, so this is a basically, let's say, parent class. Parent class. Okay, so this parent class means, let's say this, let's start with simply, okay, this is a class. Okay, bank account, and inside that this account number, balance. So these are instance attributes and these are two methods belonging to this bank account. Okay, deposit and withdraw. So let's say if I create one object, even bank account. Okay, and what are the input? Some, okay, and let's say balance equal to, yeah. So what we can do, even dot underscore number. Okay, so first let's run this, then yeah. So account number, this one. Let's say if I have to deposit something, deposit, and then I have written some amount, let's say 13,000. Yeah. So the amount get added to the my balance. Okay. And similarly, if I withdraw, let's say 4,000. Okay. So initially, let's say we have created some class which have deposit and withdraw functionality. And what are the input that is required? Account number and balance. Let's say we want to create some more feature to this thing, bank account. Okay. And for that, let's say if we create a means a child class, or let's say if I have to create one more thing called saving class. Okay. Uh, this we can call this child class. Yeah. So why child class? Means if you see here, this is a bank account, class bank account. So this we called it as a parent class. Here, if you see in child class, we started with class, then class name, and inside that, what we have written, bank account. So bank account is this one. Okay. So what we are inputting, the input to child class will be parent class. Okay. This is called bank account. Okay. Now, let's say in this saving account, I want to have all these features. Okay. And on top of that, I want to add some more feature to this thing. Okay. So when we child class call the parent class, so it will have all the feature related to parent class. So when we call this bank account, so this class will basically inherit all the things, or it can take all the properties variables from the parent class. Okay. Now there is a one method called super. super. Okay, so this super method, let's say if you have to access the account number balance, okay, argument, then you need to use a super method. Maybe I can give you some. Yeah. So let's create it here. Dev, oh sorry, class. Then what I have done, saving, uh, saving account, and we have written yeah. Now, so here also first I want I should have a init method, which is basically constructor. So self, what are the input that I want? Like, let's say I want account number, balance, interest rate. Okay, so this account number balance is already present in bank account. I have added one more argument called interest rate. Okay, now, so there is a super method. Super, the syntax is so super, then underscore init, then account number and balance. Okay, so this account number and balance, so when you write this super, so it will basically initialize this constructor. Okay, this constructor means, for example, let's say if I do not use super, what we have to do? We have to use right like self dot account number, right? Number equal to account number, right? This way we have to write for balance and interest, right? Uh, self dot balance equal to balance, and similarly self dot interest, uh, interest rate equal to just, let's read this. So here account number, balance and interest rate. So let's say if, means here three inputs are required and we have to again write in this format. Okay, but let's say if you do not want to, because this is already written in parent class and we are calling the parent class here. Okay, so to get these values, what we can write means there are three input, right? Account number, balance and interest rate. Out of that, account number and balance is already in bank account class. Okay, so what we can do, so I'm commenting that thing. we can simply write super dot super, then bracket, then underscore underscore in it, then underscore underscore account number and balance. Okay, so these two variables we are. So when you write this thing, so it will automatically treat it as this one, self dot account number and self dot balance. Okay, and similarly, since interest rate is not in bank account, so what we can do, simply we can write self dot interest rate. Okay, yeah. Now I have added one more functionality like def add interest self. So interest will be cell dot balance into cell dot interest rates and this one. So expected independent block. Okay. No. See. So now let's see create an object using this a2 equal to let's say this, and I'm writing three input. Let's say 7 comma balance. Let's say 10,000. Then interest rate. Let's say 0.06. Okay, 6%. Let's say interest rate, and let's simplify it. Okay, now a2 dot account number. Account underscore number. Okay, and let's say a2 dot add C. Here, if you see in, let's say this is the one class, right? This parent class, and this we called it as a child class because it is passing the value of, uh, or it is passing means inside that there is a bank account. Okay. Now, if you see, when we create an object using this saving account, okay, then we able to access the account number, add interest, because okay, these are the variables that we able to access, and this is the add interest properties there, means functionality is there. Apart from that, using this only we able to access the deposit and withdraw also. So let's say I means where we can use it, let's say initially you have created some class, okay, and let's, if you want to add some more feature to that class, uh, so you have created some base class like bank account, and here if you see there is a saving account, right? So you have created one class called saving account. So in saving account you do not want to add, means you do not want to write again code for like deposit, withdraw, Okay, because it is already written in bank account. So what we can do, what you can do is like you can call that uh, our parent class. Okay, and so when you call parent class inside a child class, uh, so it will inherit all the properties of the parent class. Okay, and if you see here, in child class we have added one functionality, add interest, but it also means we don't have to write the deposit and withdraw it. When we call this bank account, it will directly inherit these things. Add interest means deposit or withdraw, ATU dot withdraw. See, okay, so this child class basically inherit all the property from the parent class. Okay, and here super is used to basically access the, means if you have to initialize this uh, or means to access these values, okay, then you can use a super method in the constructor. Okay, yeah. uh, mm, yeah. So this is one more example. Okay, let's say if I have a, again, this is the, let's say bank account simple class, is, let's say if I create a simple class called bank account. Okay, and we can call it as a parent class because it's not inheriting anything from any other class. Okay, it is simply bank account and there is a no bracket, and there is nothing which we call other class right here. So because of that we can call it as a parent class. Okay, now again let's say the same thing, saving bank account. Okay, and we have to access this, is when we create a instructor, sorry, constructor, then let's say account number, balance and interest rate is required, and we do not want to again write self dot account number or balance because it is already there. So just to use this we can use super method, super underscore underscore init. Okay, and we can call this. Right. Now let's say here we have created one function called deposit. Okay, one function called deposit. Okay, and basically what we want to modify this deposit parent class deposit function. Okay, so what we have done, first let's say result equal to super dot deposit amount. So if you have to call the parent class method inside a child class method or inside a child class, then you can use super, then dot, then the method name. Okay, here the method name was deposit. So simply you can use super dot, this is the function name, and then amount. Okay, and then we are returning it. Okay, so if you call this class saving account bank account and use this function like deposit, it will override the previous function. Okay, for example, let's create two classes. So one is using simple bank account. Okay, and here a1 equal to, let's say, bank account, and what are the input required, account number and balance. So let's write sums, and let's say 30,000. Okay, and if I have to see a1 dot deposit, okay, a1 dot deposit, and let's say Initially the balance was 25,000, 30,000, and I am adding 25,000 more. So here saying deposited 25,000, now balance is 55,000. Okay, so this is when we call this bank account class, means when we create an object using this uh, class. Okay, bank account. Now what we have done, we have created a child class saving account. Because why child class? Because we want to inherit this property, bank account. Okay, we are calling this bank account. Now super init account number balance, we have used super because we want to access initialize this thing, account number balance. Okay, now cell dot interest rate, that is okay. Then dev deposit self comma amount. So here also deposit, here also deposit, right? The same, I mean child class also have the same function name. Okay, so result equal to, means first we have we want to basically use this one. So we have used deposit amount, and what we want, when user basically in this saving account, we want to give some bonus to user, in the sense like, let's say if we add something, let's say if we add 10,000 amount, so we want to give 0.01 1% bonus when he deposits something. Okay, so we have added that feature in child class, like bonus equal to amount into 0.01. Okay, and then cell dot balance plus equal to bonus. Okay, yeah. So now let's create another class with equal to saving account. Yeah. Now let's say st dot deposit, and the same thing. Let's say 25,000. I want to add. Okay. Yeah. So here, if you see, when you call the child class like saving account, so this will basically return, means when we call with this function deposit, it will return this function value, not the this one. Okay, so if there are a means similar function to child class as well as parent class, so when we call the child class, it will use that child class function. Okay, are you getting, means uh, so here again, let's say uh, in parent class also there is a deposit function, and in child class also there is a deposit function. But when we create an object using child class, then it will use this function, not the previous one. Okay, but let's say if I have to use a withdraw, okay, in child class there is no withdraw function, so at that time it will use this one. Okay, for example, here we have used deposit, right? In we have you created a object using saving account, that is child class. So let's say if withdraw, and let's say 10,000. So here it is means here, if you see that in saving account there is a no withdraw function, but here in parent class there is a withdraw option, so it will use it, withdraw. Okay, so If it is not available in child class, it will use the parent class function. If it is available in child class as well, the same function, then it will override or it will use the child class function if both the function name are same for parent class and child class. Okay, yeah, so this is basically a single level inheritance. Okay, so in next class we will see there are some other form of inheritance, so we will try to see or complete that as well. Okay, so till this point, any doubt?
So there are certain things, but I think first I need to practice these things, then I should ask doubts.
Okay, yeah, so tomorrow also we will have class. Okay, this week means in the upcoming week or mm, so in the upcoming week I want to finish this Python. Okay, so tomorrow also we'll have class. So this class or oops concept, I think it will require 2 more classes. So maybe tomorrow and means Monday, Tuesday, both day I will take class. Okay, the same timing. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Any doubt? Any other doubt? Anyone having? Okay. So in inheritance, they may ask question in interview. Okay. So this is the thing that we have seen. So that was first level of single inheritance. Okay. So similarly, there are 3, 4 more types of inheritance. So that we'll see in tomorrow class. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then that's it for today's class. So we will stop it here.